Hi everyone, this is Tisch Aitken, and it is Friday, December 27th, 2024. If you like my channel and you would subscribe or share, I would really appreciate it. We have such big astrology ahead of us in 2025. I will give it to you in bits. I'm not going to give it right now, but boy, it's going to be quite a year for all of us. And today is my friend Georgiana's birthday, one of my favorite Capricorns in the world. So happy birthday, Georgiana. Okay, so we had the second square of Jupiter and Saturn, and that occurred on Christmas Eve. Jupiter, the planet of abundance, expansion, opportunity, and optimism, is currently transiting in Gemini, where it's in its detriment because it rules the sign of Sagittarius, which is the opposite sign. Whenever a planet is transiting in the sign that opposes its rulership, it's automatically in its detriment. So Jupiter in Gemini, Gemini is like Sag, very much about learning and curiosity, but it can get too scattered, go in too many directions. Sagittarius is the big vision. Gemini is more everyday living and networking and marketing and sales and definitely communication, but it needs to be a little more direct. And this has our thoughts and minds all scattered. And Saturn is now direct in Pisces. It's stationed direct in the middle of November. But this is the last time that Jupiter and Saturn will square one another while Jupiter is in Gemini and Saturn is in Pisces. And Saturn is how we structure our goals. It's our focus, it's our responsibility, it can be our limitations. Saturn contracts, Jupiter expands. The first square was on August 19th, and the two clashed at 17 degrees of Gemini and Pisces. This time it's at 14 degrees. And again, it's the final time. This is beckoning you to find faith, Saturn in Pisces, in a very difficult time, and it can feel uncomfortable. And yesterday, Mercury, which now is, it's direct, it's still in Sagittarius for a little while longer. It set off this square with Saturn and Jupiter. It opposed Jupiter yesterday, so that could bring a lot of thoughts and communication. Bear in mind that we're also in Mars retrograde, and that's a very life-changing Mars retrograde because it's part of this new story of Pluto, really the new age of Aquarius. So we're in a backwards energy, a reflective energy with Mars retrograde of how we can tap into our power. And so you've got Saturn square or Jupiter squaring Saturn, which can also feel uncomfortable. How do I expand what I've been building and I've been thinking about and working on? And here are the reality checks. And then Mercury opposite Jupiter, where you come in with a lot of ideas and then, here's the buzzkill today, early this morning. Saturn, planet of restrictions, squares Mercury. Your thoughts aren't good enough. You got to tweak this, tweak that, or you're all over the place. Get focused. Well, that's the energy. It's mutable energy. It goes in many different directions. But reflect on this final Jupiter Saturn square in the Gemini Pisces axis. Again, find faith, believe in yourself. Saturn and Neptune are both transiting in Pisces, which in itself is also unusual. The last time they would have been in Pisces together was the the mid 1800s, around 1848, and before that was around 1520. That's not very frequent. Saturn is not in its detriment or its fall position in Pisces, but it feels like it. It really tests your faith, test your believing in your own magic. Do not lose that belief in yourself. And Mercury squaring Saturn, well, I was born with a Mercury Saturn opposition. It can definitely make you very self-critical, but it also can be very good for focusing And right now we're all scattered, so I can't say you're going to be really focused, but it is a helpful tool when you tap into the energy. Okay, I need to work on this, I need to work on that. And that's an effective energy with Mars retrograde. Mars retrograded initially on December 6th in the sign of Leo, which is a fixed fire sign. It's strong in Leo. Mars rules Aries in modern astrology. It's very masculine, fire ruled energy. It's how you assert yourself, it's how you get action going, it's how you move ahead. And in Leo, it's about your heart chakra, opening your heart to be creative, to be confident, to not be the cowardly lion, to be courageous. And now Mars will return to the sign of Cancer in the beginning of January, on January 6th. But before that, it's going to oppose Pluto. And that's going to be the second opposition. They opposed one another on January 3rd. And that was the last time that Pluto, Pluto was in Capricorn then, and they're going to oppose each other two more times, January 3rd and April 26th. But now it's going to be in the Aquarius Leo axis. Pluto's done. This is the first Capricorn season we've ever had, the new moon in, well, ever had, but since 2007, this is the first Capricorn season where we had the winter solstice without Pluto in Capricorn. We have a new moon upcoming on January, on December 30th, that's going to be at 9 degrees of Capricorn. And that's going to be an opening square to the solar eclipse that occurred on October 2nd. That was at 10 degrees and 2 minutes of the cardinal air sign of Libra. And this new moon, I know I'm in many different directions, I'm embodying the astrology, but this new moon in Capricorn sets off what you were working with in the fall. That was a solar eclipse on October 2nd. And then the closing square will be on March 29th when we have a partial solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries. Now, there's very Aries energy too. Right now, it's feeling held back, but I'm going to talk more about the new moon tomorrow because there's so much to break down. But Mars rules the sign of Aries. We have Mars retrograde, is retrograding in two signs, initially in Leo, the majority of the time in Cancer, because it returns to Cancer on January 6th and remains in Cancer through April 18th, but it goes direct on February 23rd. So it's going to be retrograde almost the first 2 months of the year. Not easy. Mars opposite Pluto, we're feeling that build up now. Remember, I told you in prior videos, and if you don't, we feel Mars before it's exact. We feel Uranus before it's exact. They get you. Okay, so that volatility, Mars and Pluto. Mars is the god of war, Pluto is the god of the underworld. That energy could be great for doing a detox. If you're doing a staycation and kind of staying in this, the rest of this calendar year into the new year, or if you're doing, it's a great time to maybe do a liver cleanse, maybe doing a lot of decluttering, maybe writing a list of people you forgive from your past, because when Mars goes back into Cancer, it's going to bring a lot of emotional triggers, things from the past maybe you haven't thought about for a long time, whether it's family stuff that comes up, your wounded inner child, whether it's old relationships that you reflect upon, because it's a very reflective time of year, the end of the year and the beginning of a new one. But with Mars, you also want to focus on your goals, reset, redo, recharge. Recharge is a great word with Mars retrograde. And the interesting thing, the north node of karma right now is at 1 degree of Aries. And in the new moon chart, it's going to be conjunct Neptune out of sign. Well, don't you know that the north node of fate will be changing signs? The nodes of fate will be changing signs on January 11th. They'll be transitioning from the Aries Libra axis. Even though we have one more eclipse in Aries, they're always retrograde. They're going back from Aries Libra to Pisces Virgo. We had our first lunar eclipse in Pisces on September 17th. at 25 degrees of Pisces. And we will have our second lunar eclipse. It'll be a total lunar eclipse at 23 degrees, I believe 36 minutes of Virgo. That will be on March 14th. So we'll be, picking up from that story we started in September. But there's a lot of Pisces, but again, not to segue too much, there's a lot of Aries because Mars rules Aries. It's retrograde. The north node of karma is close to the world point. 0 degrees of Aries is known as the Aries point. It's also the beginning of the astrological. It's the beginning of the zodiac. It's a starting point. It's a point of creativity, and it's a point of new beginnings. And so, and in the astrological calendar, it's the beginning of the astrological new year. So the Aries point is strong, but we have Venus is going to retrograde on March 1st. So we're going to get out of Mars retrograde on the 23rd of February. And then about 8 days later, it'll already be in its shadow. Venus retrogrades at 9 degrees of Aries. Well, that sets off this new moon on the 30th. This also defaults back to the solar eclipse on October 2nd. That was the opposite sign. That was at 10 degrees of Libra. And then, oh no, Venus is going to retrograde at 10 degrees and 50 minutes of Aries on March 1st. But then Mercury will retrograde on March 15th at 9 degrees of Aries. And the solar eclipse on I'm all over, on March 29th will be at 9 degrees of Aries. So there's a lot of Aries energy, even though the nodes of fate are leaving Aries and Mars retrograde is answering back to that energy. So it's asserting yourself, it's being yourself. And I'm not even mentioning the fact that Neptune and Saturn, both outer planets, are going to be in Aries for several months next year. And I'll get more into that another time. I have gotten into that. That's a big deal. They're not done with Pisces, but they're going to get to the world point. They're going to get to 0 and 1 degrees or 2 degrees of Aries. So they're getting very early on, and that's going to start a whole new journey. So we're not done with Aries, we're not done with Pisces, and we're certainly not done with Aquarius. But right now we're in many different directions, much like this video. It can feel uncomfortable. The moon was in Scorpio on the 25th of December. A lot of people may have had a difficult day because it was right after that Jupiter-Saturn square. A lot of small businesses are really feeling this hit. Because Jupiter and Gemini, for me, spotlights the fact that small businesses are really suffering. The market's up. We've got Pluto back in Aquarius. Now this really is the new age of Aquarius. That's why the market's up. Technology is doing great. And that will be, again, a digital revolution on steroids. But small businesses, your mom and pop shops, they're not doing as great. That's trickling down. I'm in an area now that wasn't impacted initially, but now it's getting hit. Big cities got hit from the get-go when we were in the epic of Capricorn in 2020. It's just compounding. And we really need to focus. And I've been doing this a lot with my social media. I'm, sharing other sites that I respect, other people I really respect. I want to promote them. I want to bring light to them. And, I hope you bring light to me too if you feel called to. But the small businesses are the ones we want to focus on too. And getting involved in your local environment, there's going to be a lot more coming out, and there already is, about the effects of technology on our mental health. Well, those mom and pop shops, going out locally, being a part of your environment and your neighborhood, that's what fuels you with good connections, with good ideas. It's good for the brain. We are social beings. We are social animals. We don't want to be animals. That's what we're kind of devolving into being, but we are social animals. And so, lot to think about. I will do a new moon video tomorrow because I'm just catching up myself because it was just the holidays. And we have Venus. Oh yeah, Venus is what's Venus doing? It's doing something. Venus is right now hitting Uranus. Uranus is in Taurus, so it's doing something. It's squaring Uranus tomorrow, I believe. So I have to remind myself the energy's scattered. We're all scattered. It's okay. We got a mutable T-square, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn. They're all, it's a T-square. It's going in many different directions. So good luck. Take care. And I will do another report tomorrow. Okay? Take care.